Into the Trap, Korea, 1952. The snow had begun falling just after dawn, soft and silent over the rocky ridgelines of the Korean peninsula. It blanketed the scars of war, burnt-out trees, craters in the earth, blood frozen beneath the powder. From high above, the world looked almost peaceful, but Captain Ray Monroe knew better. Flying his A-1 Skyraider low over the Chosin Reservoir, he scanned the icy horizon, eyes narrowed behind his fogged goggles. The radio crackled, then stilled. The mission had changed, again. Intelligence had failed them. What was supposed to be a quick support, run for retreating infantry, had turned into a nightmare. Below him, anti-aircraft fire had begun to spit from the hills. Bright, tracer rounds lancing upward like spears through the mist. His squadron was boxed in, the valley now a death trap. He could hear the fear in their voices over the comms, each man desperate to pull away, to escape the noose tightening around them. But Ray's voice cut through the static, calm, steady, unshakable. "Break formation, head west. I'll draw them off." No one answered, but he didn't wait. He banked his aircraft hard, wings slicing through the air as he turned back toward the firestorm. In that moment, he knew. He would not be going home, but if he could buy them even 5 more minutes, it would be worth it. The Lone Skyraider, Korea, 1952. Ray felt the G-force grip his ribs as he dove straight into the mouth of the valley. The Skyraider's heavy engine roaring like thunder across the frozen ridges. Smoke from distant artillery mixed with the low-lying fog, turning the air into a swirling gray curtain, blinding and suffocating. But he flew lower still, mere feet above the treetops, drawing every eye, every barrel, every godforsaken gun away from his retreating squadron. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from something deeper. Resolve. In his hands, the control stick shook violently as the first bursts of flak shattered the silence, black puffs of smoke erupting around him. He could hear nothing now but the whine of wind and the dull crackle of radio. Silence. His men were gone, flying west just as he'd ordered. Good. That meant they were alive. He tilted the nose down and unleashed his payload, a string of rockets, streaking toward an enemy artillery nest hidden beneath camouflaged netting. The impact lit up the side of the mountain like sunrise, and still he didn't pull up. Tracer rounds clipped his left wing. Flames licked up toward the cockpit. The Skyraider groaned as if protesting what it knew was coming. But Ray didn't flinch. If this was the end, he was going to burn it into the history no one would write. A one-man assault, a human shield with wings. One last mission, not to win a war, but to give others a chance to see the morning. Fire in the Sky, Korea, 1952. The cockpit filled with smoke as Ray's instrument panel flickered erratically, warning lights flashing like the heartbeat of a dying machine. He could barely see, barely breathe. His gloved hand reached for the manual fuel cutoff, coughing as the fumes clawed at his lungs. Below him, the valley writhed with chaos, enemy troops scrambling. Anti-aircraft gunners swinging wildly in panic, their concentration broken by the Skyraider's relentless onslaught. The first blast from his second rocket volley hit an ammunition truck, erupting in a ball of fire so bright it seared the clouds above. Then another. Then another. It wasn't just destruction. This was orchestration. Ray wasn't flying. He was conducting a symphony of delay, buying every precious second he could. But his aircraft was coming apart. The left engine coughed once, then died. Shrapnel had torn through the wing root. Flames licked along the fuselage, black smoke trailing like a banner in the wind. Still, he fought to stay aloft, banking sharply to the east, circling back one last time. He could hear faint chatter on the radio now. His men had cleared the kill zone. They were alive. That was all he needed. And so, with a broken aircraft and a failing sky, Captain Ray Monroe pulled into a final dive, aiming not at retreat, but directly into the teeth of the enemy's last stronghold. His voice, hoarse but steady, cracked across the open channel. "Strike now! Coordinates marked. Finish it." Then silence, the kind that follows after all the bravery is spent. Silence over the valley. Korea, 1952. For a few seconds after the impact, the world held its breath. Smoke billowed from the ridge where Ray's Skyraider vanished in a thunderous bloom of flame, debris flung high into the frozen air. then raining down like blackened snow. The valley, once alive with gunfire, grew strangely quiet. The enemy, stunned by the suicidal fury of a lone pilot's charge, had stopped firing. His squadron, now miles away, listened in aching silence as the radio channel remained empty. No final words, no scream, just static. And then, the call signs came back online, one by one, each voice trembling with exhaustion, each man realizing they were alive because one of their own had refused to leave. Captain Monroe had done what no strategy ever could. He had broken the enemy's rhythm, shattered their coordination, and stalled a massacre with a single desperate act. At Forward Operating Base Iron Hook, the radios crackled with reports. Monroe down. Target area neutralized. Requesting recovery teams, but no one truly expected to find him. The mountain had swallowed him whole, his wreckage smoldering somewhere beyond the tree line, lost among the cliffs and snow, and yet, even in his absence, something remained. A line drawn across the sky, a promise kept. A man who had flown into death, not for glory, not for medals, but because he knew someone had to. What the mountains remember. Korea, 1997. 45 years later, the Korean mountains were quieter, but they hadn't forgotten. In the summer of 1997, a South Korean hiker stumbled upon something half-buried in the moss-covered rocks near the edge of a forgotten ridge, metal twisted by fire, scorched earth hardened by time. Military investigators arrived days later, and what they uncovered sent ripples through the U.S. Air Force archives. It was the wreckage of an A-1 Sky Raider, its fuselage still, bearing the faded stars of the U.S. insignia. Inside the shattered frame, they found a rusted dog tag, Monroe, Ray, and scratched into the metal of the flight stick, whether by Ray's own hand or etched by flame. And fate were the words, "Hold the line." His remains were never recovered, but his legacy didn't need a grave. When the news reached the few surviving members of his old squadron, men who had gone on to raise families, live long lives and grow old in peace, every one of them paused. Not one of them had forgotten. Because on that frozen morning in 1952, when the sky turned to fire and hope was bleeding out, it was one man who turned his aircraft around. One man who stayed behind so the rest could live. Captain Ray Monroe was posthumously awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, but to those who lived because of him, that medal was never enough. In the wind over the Chosin Hills, they say you can still hear the faint echo of a propeller cutting through frost, and a voice, steady and calm, saying, "I've got them. You go."